Hi everyone, it's Veronica. Welcome to part 2 of the Beating Fallout 4 in the Undie's challenge. Before we get into the main video, I want to say a couple of things, and if you don't want to sit through them, I'll put a timestamp on screen and you can skip to when the main part of the video begins. First of all, the obvious YouTuber thing, if you enjoy the channel, be sure to subscribe, make sure you like the videos if you enjoy them, leave a little comment. I like reading people's comments, it can be entertaining. Also, if you want to, you can support me on Patreon for £1 a month. There'll be links to that in the description below. There's also the link to my T-mail shop where I sell some basic merch. I'm trying to improve the selection, but we got some t-shirts and some other bits, so be sure to have a look. The second thing I want to bring up, if you missed the post, I'm not doing a review this week due to a scheduling conflict. I couldn't get someone to come and do something that I needed them to do for the script, and they only just got around to doing it the other day, so everything's a bit behind. I'm going to be doing this week's review next week, as well as next week's review. Anyway, with all that said, we can now get on with this. If you haven't seen part 1 of this run, I'll leave a card in the corner for you to click on so that you can go and watch it before you watch this one. If you have watched that one, stick around. You can now watch this one. When we last left off, Paladin Danse had just recruited me to join him to ArcJet Systems to help him recover something his team needed. Although before I decided to help him, I wanted to head a bit deeper into Boston to discover some locations for later. Whilst I was exploring, I hit level 6 and took the first rank of the medic perk. I also encountered some raiders who were in desperate need of a shotgun shell to the face. Thanks to being cautious, the fight went pretty decently. I didn't take too much damage and was able to quickly dispatch the raiders with little resistance. I also happened upon this random encounter where two Arts are talking and one of them's a synth and you have to figure out which one it is and kill the synth. I encouraged Art to kill Art, and it turns out we were right, this guy was a synth. I couldn't tell you why the Institute needed to replace this guy exactly, but apparently they did. I then kind of forgot what I was doing and just decided to head back and find Danse. I let him know I'm ready to go, and just as we're leaving the building, the game crashes. Let's try that again, shall we? I go back to Danse, tell him we're ready to go, he says outstanding, and we actually make it outside the police station this time. You probably know by now that there's a group of raiders waiting on the path for you on your way to ArcJet Systems, so we have to take them out. It's not too hard for some reason, it's almost like I've got a power armor dude next to me. I did try to do as much of the damage myself though, as is the rule. There's also the bloat flies here and the dogs here, none of them are really an issue, so we get to ArcJet Systems relatively unscathed. Look at the size of that pistol. We encounter our first group of synths inside, and since I don't have to run up to them with a switchblade this time around, I can just throw a grenade at them from the safety of my desk. As I've got no pockets, I don't know about you, but I like to picture that all of my equipment smells permanently of arse. The first room was easy enough, the second room did get a bit hairier. I took quite a lot of damage, and there were a couple of times in this fight where I was generally certain I was going to have to raise the death counter. Whilst I am taking a lot of health damage from these attacks, the area is going quite smoothly. I even find a magazine that might actually be useful to me this time around. The turrets in the hallway don't put up much of a fight, and this time when we get to the big engine room, I decide that I don't have to go outside and kill all the synths myself. If you don't know, this big engine can be powered up to quickly destroy every synth in that room for quite a long time. It essentially just ends the fight there and then. It does damage Danse, but he will survive. He's a critical NPC and cannot die. There was only one more group of synths to go before the facility was cleared. Again, I took quite a lot of health damage, and this is what I gotta tell you, this run is starting to get really tense. Even with things like medics, my health is dropping like crazy. It had me dreading the inevitable attack on Fort Strong later in the game when we have to confront Kellogg. Eventually me and Danse kill off all the synths and get what we came for. Outside, Danse tries to convince me to join the Brotherhood of Steel, and I am sort of considering it this time around. Mostly just so that the run was different from last time. Anyway, I get my reward and I'm on my way. Though not before leveling up again, of course. This time I take the first rank of Gun. I then decided it's a good time to make a trip home to do some weapon mods, and it's at this point I remember you kinda need the science skill to upgrade the laser rifle. which I don't have. So I settled on doing some work to my double-barreled shotgun. With everything here done that I needed to do, I could head back towards Boston. I had a gunfight with the raiders on the wrecked boats in the river. It went pretty well thanks to an ample supply of bullets and grenades. At this point, I'm having a bit of an internal debate about whether or not I should raise the difficulty. I take quite a lot of damage in these fights, but I can usually dispatch the enemies fast enough that it's not a big deal. Whilst pondering this and scavenging the boat after the fight, I find a 10mm pistol with a reflex sight. Oh yeah, I haven't actually mentioned it until this point. I was struggling to find nuclear material to make a reflex sight for my trusty pistol, so I'm pretty happy to have found one. That would have had more impact if I remembered to bring it up before now, but I didn't, so... I quickly head back to the Red Rocket truck stop to install the sight on my own pistol. I then figure it's not a bad idea to head to the diner to see what drugs Wolfgang has.
Thanks for helping us out with Trudy. You did good.
Please tell me he's not going to say that every time. I buy his entire supply of medics before continuing on my journey towards Diamond City. Like last time, I'm not going to go into Diamond City right away. I'm going to discover a point near Diamond City and then just sort of head towards the vault from there because I don't want to deal with Piper. Of course, I do stop on the way to help the Diamond City security guards fight off the super mutants, mostly because I want the Hound's yummy meat. That could sound really wrong out of context. Yeah, that fight went pretty easily as well, didn't it? I'm seriously considering raising the difficulty at this point. At least I got a weapon I'll never use. As I travel further into Boston, I encounter another group of raiders that are particularly dim-witted. You really do have to wonder how these groups survive in the wasteland when they can't even see me coming. If you watched my Switchblade run, then you'll know even with the higher ranks of the sneak perk, I still was terrible at sneaking, and yet somehow I managed to get around these raiders relatively easily. Of course, they spotted me, but not before it was too late. Maybe they're just trying to be polite and seeing a naked woman wandering around is like, oh no, can't possibly look at her, we're gentlemen. Murderer. Fiends. Yeah, it's probably not it. I'm just saying the feral ghouls outside the Boston Public Library had more awareness than these guys did. As I explore further, I overhear some raiders talking about something, and I'm just going to let this conversation play because it amuses me.
So I'm keeping an eye on those mutant freaks over at Trinity, and this guy comes out of nowhere sprinting down the road. I know he must have seen him standing there from way down the street, but he didn't slow down or even duck into one of the alleys.
What the hell? What'd they do to him? The hounds must have ripped him to shreds. By the way, this guy ain't got nothing on him. Like 10 caps and a desk fan? Who carries around a desk fan?
Ah, damn it. Anyway, they didn't do nothing to the guy. I think they were as confused as I was. Get this. The guy was making sounds.
What do you mean? Was he screaming or something?
Not really. It was almost like he was making motorcycle sounds, like he was pretending he was riding one or something. He was even making gear shifting noises and everything.
So what? Did they just let him drive right by?
Yeah, but he didn't just drive by. He reached in his bag, but didn't seem to take anything out. Until he pulled his hand toward his mouth like he was biting something. Then it looked like he threw it into the Trinity lobby.
What the fuck? What was it? What did he throw?
Nothing. I think he was acting like he threw a grenade at him or something. A second or two later, as he drove his bike down the road, he made a loud boom sound, as if the grenade he had just thrown had exploded.
Are you serious? What a fucking whack job. Whoa! I think this guy's still moving.
Yeah, you can occasionally hear raiders discussing this random scavenger wastelander person who's pretending he's got a motorbike, and I just find it funny. I hope you do as well. As I'm attacking another raider encampment further down the road, I hit level 8, and decide to take the first rank of the Lone Wanderer perk. Funnily enough, whenever I play the game and take on this camp, I usually die at least a couple times, partly because of the mines outside, partly because of the turret, but mostly because of the powerful raider inside, but this time, it's going really well. My god, maybe my knickers are lucky. Honestly, this encounter left me feeling pretty confident, so once I was done here, I decided to pop into the comic book shop that's full of feral ghouls on my way into town. I also wanted to get that comic book that gave you the 1% chance to ignore any incoming damage because it's a bloody handy trait. I mean, it's not likely to happen, but, like, it could happen. Of course, the nerds in the comic book shop have never seen a woman before and are jumping at the opportunity to get a look at me, so I have to politely send them on their way. That's what you get for breaking the law of gravity, you fuck. The majority of the feral ghouls aren't a big deal, it's the glowing one I'm really worried about. And for good reason, they're constantly pissing radiation, they hit like a runaway train, and they can take more loads than your mum can. Worse still, if you didn't notice, the ones in Fallout 4 can actually use radiation to revive other dead feral ghouls, so long as those feral ghouls aren't dismembered. I spent ages just running around the comic book shop trying to keep my distance from the fucker. When I do get a shot off at the ghoul, I do try to aim for the legs typically so that I can cripple it before it can get close. Without a critical hit saved up though, it does take quite a while to do enough damage to the legs for them to fall off. By the time I have a critical hit saved up, I realise that the ghoul is low enough in its health bar now that if I attack it in the head with said critical hit, it will die. So all's well that ends well. Once I was done in the comic book shop, I head towards Park Street Station, then decide to quickly head towards Goodneighbor to discover it for later. Of course I do stop to kill everything that has a pulse on the way. Once I make it to Goodneighbor, I let this little scene play out where the mayor just outright murders a dude before deciding to pop over to Cleo's to buy some weapons. I felt like I needed a sniper rifle to round everything out, so I bought a hunting rifle and used the nearby workbench to transform it. If you're wondering why I didn't just look for a sniper rifle to buy, it's because I wanted a little bit of XP you get from doing the mods yourself. Although despite not wanting to, I did have to head back to the Red Rocket truck stop to do the mods properly, mostly because that's where all my junk is. I also named it, because why not? Anyway, it's now time to go and take on the Triggermen. Thanks to my lovely new sniper rifle, this very first group of Triggermen weren't too difficult to take care of. With the guys on the station below, I decide to put my sniping skills to the test, which goes well, surprisingly well, actually. Usually I have all the aiming prowess of a stormtrooper with crippling wanker's cramp. Of course, all good things must come to an end, and I'm back to shooting like a stereotypical movie bad guy. Of course, not having to run into the open with a switchblade this time around was making things go a lot smoother, even if I was missing most of my shots because I'm an embarrassment. Not that one, no, I nailed that one. Whilst slaughtering the gangsters, I hit level 9, and take the first rank of rifleman. So far, taking out the Triggermen has been going rather smoothly. Of course, out here I have plenty of places to move to and lots of cover to hide behind. Inside the tight confines of the vault, I expect this to change. I cannot believe I missed that shot. Inside the vault, the first 2 Triggermen are easily dispatched, as are the next several. See, Fallout 4 isn't a particularly well-balanced game. For most of the encounters you'll have in Fallout 4, a sniper rifle is basically the ultimate fuck you I win card. Although, given the fact that the Triggermen caused me quite a lot of trouble last time I did this, I was quite happy to be a cheap little bitch here, so I'm not really complaining. I also pulled off some pretty good shots and was feeling fairly proud of myself. I sniped the dude tormenting Valentine, free him, and we make a break for it. I have no questions for why he looks like that, and he has no questions for why I look like this. I also grabbed a speech bobblehead. You'll be happy to know that it wasn't Nick that fucked up our attempts to sneak this time. It was me trying to shoot through a gap in a ladder that wasn't actually a gap. Fucking Bethesda. Luckily the Triggermen weren't too much of a bother. Honestly, the vault was kind of a cakewalk. I was even able to get off some decent sneak attacks, which is just not like me at all. I was worried about the fight with Skinny Malone, but this time I was able to get lucky and convince Darla to just walk away and he wouldn't shoot us after that point. After we get outside, I once again keep the fact that I'm psychic hidden from Nick and agree to meet him in Diamond City. But I don't head to Diamond City right away. For the first part of this Undie run, I had a friend staying with me and he convinced me that it'd be a good idea to try and kill the super mutant behemoth in the lake. Of course, this sounded like a terrible idea. Naturally, that made me want to do it more. Not gonna lie, didn't expect to survive that, but you know what? That was pretty fun, and turns out it wasn't such a bad idea. I even got the Furious Power Fist out of it that I would never use. Afterwards, I quickly head back home to scrap all the weapons I wasn't going to use, store all my junk, and to make some ArcJet, which gave me just enough XP to hit the next level. Now I'm level 10, and the second rank of toughness feels like a no-brainer. Now it's finally time to head to Diamond City. I run straight inside, ignoring Piper and the mayor, and head straight to the doctor's office because I've picked up something of a slight Med-X addiction. You know how this bit goes by now. We talk to Nick, we go see the mayor to get the key to Kellogg's house, he doesn't want to give us the key, I bribe the secretary, we get inside Kellogg's house, realise he's not there, then convince Dogmeat to guide us towards him. Though I do stop at the doctor's to see what drugs he has. I don't have a problem, you have a problem. So we follow Dogmeat across the Commonwealth, and I've got to admit, I really like this little bit. I kind of wish it was used more, like using Dogmeat to track things down. That could have been cool. Why do we only get to do it here? The usual wildlife tried to give us a bit of grief, but it's nothing that me and my doggo can't handle. Of course, the Yao Guai was the biggest concern. I know I killed it with a switchblade last time, but I had armor last time, this time I don't. Luckily, Yao Guai are big, slow, and stupid, so it's fairly easy just to sort of strafe to the side and unload a few shells into them. I also concluded that Yao Guai's natural enemies are logs, because he wouldn't jump over the log to get me, so there's obviously something going on there. It wasn't difficult killing the Yao Guai, it just took a while and quite a few bullets because they have a lot of health. But eventually Mutant Winnie the Pooh is dead and we can proceed. But when I turned around to continue on my way, I saw some super mutants poking around, which was a little bit out of the ordinary. They don't usually come around this way. As my last few encounters with them went pretty well, I wasn't too worried, and I killed them, you know, fairly efficiently actually. Yeah, I had every right to not be worried. Though I did start to notice at this point that some of my guns were running upsettingly low on ammunition. My 10mm pistol was the only exception, but I didn't feel too good about my chances taking on Kellogg in the near future with only 10mm rounds. And that's after getting through all the simps and turrets that are guarding him. I figure from this point onwards I just have to be careful and try to conserve whatever ammunition I have left. I settle on killing the ghouls on and around the bridge using a bladed tire iron to conserve my ammo. I did panic a little bit when I saw a group of super mutants approaching, but luckily the suicider killed them all because... Why are these suiciders even a thing? Once we get to Fort Hagen, the dog gets sent home, and I wander around the nearby area thinking about my options, because again, I'd have to fight through an army of simps once I was actually inside in order to even get to Kellogg, and Kellogg is quite powerful. Again, I had plenty of ammo for the 10mm pistol, but I didn't want to have to rely on it too much during the fight, because I just didn't think it'd be enough to get through that many simps. I made a plan. Head back to Lexington to loot all the pre-war money that respawns in your absence.
Thanks for helping us out with Trudy.
Oh god, fuck! Buy some extra drugs and stim packs, head to Diamond City to stock up on some ammo, then go and ask all the good citizens of Diamond City if they have any quests that need doing. I even convinced each of them to pay me an extra 25 caps for my services. And so basically I'd spend the next hour getting myself ready for the fight by leveling up and getting some money to buy even more ammo. I even accept one of the miscellaneous quests to clear out the raiders in the Backstreet Apparel location, just cause why not? Whilst I'm here I hit level 11 and take the first rank of Fortune Finder. Clearing the location doesn't take too long, the raiders aren't too much of a challenge, and I even find a nice copy of Grognag lying on one of their tables. I then move on to do the Painting the Town quest. I head towards the hardware store and there's a scavenger outside. If you don't know, this scavenger is actually a bad guy. She's trying to lure you in there so that the raiders can jump you. If you kill her, this doesn't happen. Once you kill her and enter the building, you can hear the raider boss arguing with one of the boys who keeps thinking she must have taken us around the back because she hasn't come through the door they're expecting. The boss then kills the raider because he's pissing him off, and that leaves us with one less raider to deal with. Oh, by the way, if you don't know, I'm only here risking life and limb for some green paint. Once I have my green paint, I kill the raiders in the building, then head to my next location. The next mission is to find some baseball memorabilia. Whilst I'm in the area, I do encounter a couple of mirelurks, but it only takes a few bullets to put them down. On my way to the next location, I encounter some stingwings, which made me a little bit worried for my safety, although it only took a couple of shotgun shells apiece to put them out of my misery. I reach the next location and pick up the mutated fernflower I came for. There was a bit of a scuffle with some ghouls, but it really wasn't a big deal. I killed them fairly quickly and then was able to just get away whilst the rest of them were de-aggroed. Turning in the quests, I hit level 12 and take the next rank of Gunslinger. I also figured that while I'm in town, I could do the Confidence Man quest. Honestly, I'll take any excuse to beat up some dudes in me underwear. You probably know how this quest goes by now. It doesn't take long for the bartender who sets all this up to get kidnapped, and we have to make our way over to him. I get to kill some raiders on my way there who are harassing some farmers, but the farmers don't even thank me, the selfish gits. God, the one time I don't accidentally shoot the innocents, they have no fucking gratitude whatsoever. Nothing much actually happens in this quest. I kill the raiders, I get the dude back, and all is well. With all that sorted, I head back to the Red Rocket truck stop and then head to a nearby unmarked location to pick up a 44 pistol. At this point, I have more ranks in the Gunslinger perk than I do in the Rifleman perk, which means that my pistols are much more effective than any long gun I have. The 44 pistol might have a rarer ammo type, but it does have a lot more stopping power than the 10mm. I head back to the truck stop to do some mods to it. I slap on a scope and give it a nice name. I call it the hand cannon just because I like how hand cannon sounds. I once again pop back to Lexington to loot the respawning money. After one more trip back to Diamond City to trade for some ammo, I'm finally ready to go to Fort Hagen and take on Kellogg and his force. Fort Hagen was terrible. Synth weapons do so much damage which mysteriously vanishes as soon as they drop into your hands, and it took ages of slowly creeping around, stuffing my face with health restoring food every chance I got, only to immediately lose most of my health to the next synth I encountered. I don't even know how I got through this area without dying. I was panic healing, I got caught in a reload whilst using that, everything just felt like it was gonna go to shit. But honestly, I managed it. It was not easy, but I got through it. At this point, I was fairly convinced I probably didn't need to raise the game's difficulty. Not gonna lie, that level up was extremely satisfying. Now that I'm level 13, I take the next rank of rifleman. Then I could get back to slowly crawling inch by inch through this facility. Luckily, the sniper rifle made things a lot more doable.
You are in over your head in ways you can't possibly comprehend.
Once we get to Kellogg, I decide that I am not screwing around. I'm going to throw a grenade at him as he starts talking so we can just get to the fight. Oh, get fucked, you creepy arsehole. The fight goes something like this.
Stealth capabilities fascinating. Damaged.
You know what? That went a lot better than I thought it would. With Kellogg dead, I take his password and his gun and then head over to the terminal to do the terminal things he gotta do, then head outside in time to see the Pridwin floating overhead, and that is where we're gonna call it for today. Whew. That was a bit of a long one, wasn't it? I hope you enjoyed this second part of my Undie run. If you got to this point in the video, what should I make you type this time? I don't know, Medex Addicted Brahmin, type that, I don't know. Or just type anything silly you can find, because I know some people don't want to type the ridiculous things I ask them to type, and I mean, I can't blame you. Anyway, I don't really have anything for the ending this time, so I'm just going to say thanks for watching, I love you all, and we'll see you next time.